Recording in progress.
Log into www.hinkleytwq.org for Zoom option to observe/listen only. Must be in person to speak/participate in meeting.
All right, thank you. The Hinckley Township Board of Zoning Appeals acts within the authority of Section 519 of the Ohio Revised Code and exercises its powers as provided under Chapter 7 and 13 of the Hinckley Township zoning regulations. All public hearings are open to the public. All persons wishing to testify must do so from the podium, must identify themselves and give their residence address, and must be sworn in. Evidence and testimony must be pertinent to the hearing. It is the chairman's discretion to limit personal comments, personal attacks, opinions, and or repetitious statements or testimony or evidence previously given. Disruptive persons will lose the right to remain at this hearing, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. This is a hearing upon the application of Thomas LaPolla, a potential buyer for property owned by Siva Ventures LLC located at 1360 Ridge Road, Hinckley, Ohio, for a conditional use permit. The applicant has submitted an application to this Board of Zoning Appeals and has also submitted certain documents included in your packet pertaining to their application for a conditional zoning certificate. Notice of application was properly given in local newspapers, and the application has been available for public review and comment. Has there been any other communication or any phone calls or anything received? Letters, emails? No? All right. I note for the record that non-written communication made by known or unknown persons not under oath at a properly noticed hearing is not accepted by the Board of Appeals as testimony. Each member of the Board of Zoning Appeals has been provided a copy of this application and a copy of each of the other documents submitted in support of this application. At this point, I would like the secretary to poll the board to see if a packet was received by the board and if a site visit was already made.
Calabro,
Yes and yes.
Cook,
Yes and yes.
Zalesnik,
Yes to both.
Mazer, Bud, absent Schaefer,
I got the packet, wasn't out on the inspection, but I knew the previous residential renters at that property over at the house quite a bit, so I'm quite familiar with the house.
Only,
Yes and yes.
Okay, thank you. Written communications from persons not present this evening may include communications that are not made by affidavit. Because these communications are made by persons not under oath, they are not accepted by this board. I also note that written communication may include some writing by affidavit by persons that are not present this evening and therefore cannot be subjected to cross-examination. These affidavits, therefore, will not be given much weight, if any, in the decision of the board on this matter. This board does have the power to grant the applicant's request for a conditional use permit. And again, those people that wish to speak must do so from the podium. At this point, I would like to ask the applicant if you can step up and kind of. If I could swear you in,
Yep.
you could raise your right hand. Swear, please state your name.
Thomas LaPolla.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer unto God.
I do.
Thank you. Do you want to give us a summary of your application and your request?
My request is that I am able to live in the house, occupying the second floor of the property for my dwelling, while being able to have my business and an office space for my father's business and on the first floor of the property. Is there anything else I need to say?
No, I mean, if that's what you're asking for, right?
Yep.
Any explanation on the sketches you submitted? I mean, what we saw on Saturday, or what I saw on Saturday, when we all visited, I think you had some tape. So, I mean, the sketch you submitted, this is not a reflection of what's there right now.
No,
As far as the first.
that is a reflection of what I would do to the property if the conditional use permit is accepted.
And you're asking for a conditional use to have a dwelling upstairs, and this is the sketch for the second floor, so this is where you would dwell.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have anything to start off with?
Have you ever measured the square footage, the living square footage of the second floor?
The complete square footage of the second floor is 475 square feet. That does not include a full kitchen. A small kitchenette would be upstairs. A full kitchen would be put in downstairs on the first level.
Okay, are you aware that one of the conditions of a residence upstairs is a minimum of 600 square feet of living area at that second floor?
Yes. In the verbiage used in the regulation, it says if it's above an office building or a commercial building, and this was built as a house and is, according to Medina County, a 511 single family home. So I'm hoping that because I have 475 square feet upstairs, which is actually more space than I currently have at my residence that I'm renting, and the first floor kitchen would suffice because a dwelling unit doesn't say it has to be continuous on one floor if you look at the definition of a dwelling unit.
Okay, that's your interpretation?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what did you refer to at the beginning? You said something.
It was stated in the regulations. It says it's a commercial. Let me find section 7.5 supplemental regulations D That is the one he referenced.
Our code or
Yes,
zoning
your
code?
code. Yes.
Okay, so where?
It says all residential units located above the first floor of a commercial or office building shall comply with the following requirement.
Wait,
The minimum,
Where are you?
Page 87.
Section D.
Okay,
the minimum square foot of living area for dwelling units with up to one bedroom shall be 600 square feet.
right.
So there is only 475 square feet of possible space upstairs. There's nowhere else to really go. So instead of putting a kitchen upstairs, I kept the kitchen on the first floor because this was built as a house. And that's where a kitchen was.
So I don't understand how you're interpreting where it says here, the minimum square feet of living area for a dwelling unit with one bedroom shall be 600 square feet. How are you justifying that it's 475, that it's okay?
It says of a commercial or an office building, this property is neither, it's not a commercial building or an office building currently.
Well, the zoning was changed. It is not a residential. It is not a house, because if it was a.
According to Medina County, the tax
According to
records was a
Medina
house,
County,
yes.
It was rezoned in 2017.
Okay, and it was built in 1850. I don't know where I can find any more square foot upstairs to meet your regulation.
Okay.
If you look at my, when I talked to you on Monday, when you went to go do it, I said the dwelling space in between the first and second, I did meet with 600 square feet.
Right, but that's not what you're.
You're using,
Your application is to have a dwelling, to have a business on the first floor and a dwelling unit on the second floor. And the dwelling unit should be with one bedroom, a minimum 600 square feet. So we can't count the kitchen downstairs as part of the 600 square feet.
okay,
If anything, I personally don't even understand why we're even hearing this as a conditional use, where it should have been maybe a variance from 475 to 600, and then a conditional use. But the fact that Medina County has it as a house, it's not a house. It used to be a residence. It was changed to a local business or whatever our zoning is.
but
Go ahead.
the regulation states the commercial office building, but you're using that because it became one. It wasn't built as that. So I can't change the square footage upstairs. You're using, I mean, this house was built in 1850. Is there a way for me to,
Zoning has changed.
yes,
And it's under that new use.
Yeah.
You cannot revert back to a residence.
okay.
So that
So how,
doesn't matter that, they show it as a house in Medina County in the records.
okay, so this was what I was told I had to do to be able to live here. The variance that you talked about, what would the steps be to do that then? Because I was not informed that I would have to do that.
Well, the code, right now, you need to have a minimum of 600 square feet. They're nowhere near that. So in the
Yeah.
fact that you're counting the kitchen downstairs, it doesn't qualify. And a dwelling unit, and actually the definition that we have in our code of a dwelling unit, it actually speaks of, it doesn't really say kitchen, it says space and equipment for cooking, bathing and toilet facilities. It's a single housekeeping unit comprising of living, dining, sleeping rooms, storage closets, as well as space and equipment for cooking, bathing, and toilet facilities, all used by one family and its household employees. So the equipment for cooking, you mentioned that, you were gonna put a refrigerator, microwave. I guess you can cook on anything, a hot plate, whatever.
Yep.
So, that could be argued the kitchen, but the square footage, it is what it is.
Yeah,
Our code is 600 square feet.
that is true. So how could I go about having a variance to that code then?
Well, you'd have to submit an application to get a variance. Basically, you said it's what, 475? So you
Yep.
would have to get 175 foot variance. And then if that is granted, then you go for a conditional use. But I don't know, I'm not guaranteeing that that's gonna happen.
Mhm.
You know, so I'm not saying that that should be the process, but honestly, you were aware of this? Of 600 square feet?
I was not aware when I submitted the application at first. I became aware later.
Mhm.
So I was already going down this path. That's why we're having this meeting. No one really informed me of that subsection that it had to be over 600 square feet. My shared space, my total space in the house I currently am at is 432. So, to me, would actually be, I would have more space if I moved in upstairs at this property. So if I have to go down the way of the variance, would that mean it would be pushed back to next month then? The meeting?
If you want to go for that, we can table it and it has to be published as a variance, but I don't want to lead you down the path of thinking that if you go for a variance, that will happen and then the conditional use will happen. I don't know. It depends what the rest of the board, and does anybody else have anything to contribute to this? Yes,
The
Bill.
only thing I have to contribute where he is saying he's not a commercial or office building, on the drawing, he has 3 offices and a conference room. I don't know how you're saying that this isn't an office building in the bottom.
As it sits right now,
Well, yeah.
it was never intended for that purpose. It's being used as that purpose.
Well, like I said, I visited Dances quite a bit.
Mhm.
The living room was off to the right, the dining room off to the left. I didn't even have to look at these blueprints to know what the house looked like. But you are petitioning things off into 3 offices and a conference room. So when you come in here, it's not what it is today. It's what you are going to, what you are proposing. And you are proposing an office building.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. So that's what you have to look at, is what you're doing with it. And just like, Joe says, we can tell you what you have to try to do, but we cannot guarantee any outcome.
Yeah.
Right, okay, that's fine.
What's the perimeter dimensions? You gave us 475. Was that doing each room and adding them up?
That was doing each room and adding them up.
Okay, because when I look at the bottom drawing and you show the base of the house, you've got a 28-foot frontage and a 26-foot depth of that first floor.
The second floor is smaller. It does not go all the
Okay,
way.
so what's your perimeter of the second floor? Do you have that?
Yes, I will have to do some adding here.
Should be around 21 by 2610.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what I'm getting.
Because the outside dimensions, and that wouldn't be considered living space, would be around 568.
Okay.
That's going only by what the dimensions that are here, looking at the photograph of the house, looking at the upstairs. I just did some rough calculations. It's under 570 outside wall to wall.
Yeah.
Now, is all that considered living space? Probably not. I'm not sure how that would be
That's, I
considered.
wasn't sure. Is it the perimeter or is it, quote, living space when you look at the minimum square footage of living area?
Okay, as a previous zoning inspector, when I would figure out the square footage of the building, which would then be the living space and all that bit, we went by exterior measurements.
Okay.
So I think that's what we should probably do on this. If we're going to do it, measure it as if it was a brand new building that was coming in and being charged square footage as a residence. So it would be by the exterior measurements. We wouldn't take interior measurements from, interior wall to interior wall, which you are going to take off, not a substantial amount.
Right.
But you will take off some of the square footage.
So you're 540 and some change is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay, just clarity. It gets you a little closer to that 600 number.
And like I said, after we made our visit, I did some rough calculations and I came up and looking at the zoning, it's 600 feet. They said, well, My vote would definitely be no. I'll tell you right now, because it does not meet the conditions.
So I need to put in for the variance, you would need to grant that, and then I would need to come to the next hearing, is what you're saying?
Variance, but it's not guaranteed that we
Yeah.
would grant it.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah.
No, I agree, yes, just simply doesn't meet it.
Next steps for me to put in the variance, do I ask you guys to table it until,
You can withdraw this request for the conditional use at this point,
okay,
and then you could do it in the same evening to do a variance and a conditional use.
okay,
Again, I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that if you go down that path, it's a guarantee that you're going to get it.
Yeah.
So I just want to be clear of that.
Mhm.
Doesn't-
Yeah, well, we.
I don't want to encourage you to go for a variance, and then if you don't end up getting the variance, you know,
me buying the property is on the conditional use permit. So if I can't get the conditional use permit without a variance, I kind of killed the sale of the property myself. So I think I will ask to withdraw this application for me to be able to put in a variance and a conditional use permit again then.
if that's what you would like to do. I mean, you can also go ahead and try, we can take a vote as we can make a motion, and we can, for the conditional use permit, take a vote, and it may go, it may not. Either way.
Does that hurt me trying again later?
Can you apply for a variance if you?
So if I withdraw right now, the $500 spent, I wouldn't get back, correct?
You would not.
So I would have to spend another $500 on another meeting to ask for the variance and the conditional use permit next month, then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know the exact amount, what the variance.
It's 500, okay. So it doesn't hurt me to withdraw? Does it hurt me to not withdraw is what I'm asking, I guess.
No.
I would think if he withdraws, he loses his money for today's meeting.
Right.
Okay. He would have to then apply, and I believe 2 fees, one for the variance, one for the,
Right.
Conditional. If he asks for a continuance, that's like $200. And would he be able to ask for a continuance to have it heard with the variance? And then it would just cost him $200 to have it delayed, and that would save him a few bucks.
I mean, we could table this if that's what you want to do.
I would prefer not to spend another $500 on a permit. I just put in, as I am 22, so money's still tight. So can I ask for a continuance for that, or is that not allowed?
But what would it be continuance? What would that be based on? I mean, what's the reason for that? Just to ask for?
Because I don't have a variance, which I clearly need.
Yeah, I regret that Tom Wilson isn't here to see his, to hear his, I don't know why this wasn't pointed out. If you didn't know this before, why this wasn't.
When we had talked to Tom, we had met with him, the only reference he had gone over was that it was conditional use. So I didn't think there was a square footage requirement for this.
So I don't know the bookkeeping part,
Right.
but what you're saying is if we went for a continuance, it's like, what'd you say, around $200?
$200 for a continuance.
But you would still have to pay, I believe, for the variance.
Yes.
So he
But
could
if
save
I would-
$300.
You could be saving that.
Yes.
Because I don't see why we couldn't. Again, I might be wrong because again, this is protocol type stuff. Continue it. Have him apply for a variance if you wish. go through that, and then continue for the conditional if the variance would be granted.
Correct.
That makes sense?
That makes sense.
The way I would think it could work.
So basically, your options are if you want to continue it this evening, or if you want to take your chances, we can vote on a conditional use. There's one guy here that says already no,
Yeah,
you know. Or,
well,
I would just
yes.
like to put in, if we vote for a conditional use
Mhm.
and it passes, that would be granting him a variance, which we don't have the authority to do. So I don't know how we can take a vote on it.
Which is also my point at the very beginning. I don't know why we're doing this as a conditional use permit.
Well, that's the whole
Okay.
thing. For whatever reason,
So
fell
I,
through the cracks, whatever.
right, so,
And I think if Tom was aware of, this 600-foot requirement, he would have added it on. I think it was just an oversight on his part. And being a zoning inspector, I know there's times where things slip through the cracks. So I think, we're giving him a couple of options and he's got to make up his mind.
so from that, what I'm hearing is even if I continue and everyone votes yes, you can't really do that because you guys are not allowed to grant the variance, correct?
no, we're allowed to grant a variance, but that's not what we're hearing here this evening. He didn't apply for a variance.
Because I wasn't told we had to.
Right.
Yes,
No, I
so,
understand that. You're right.
So I can't continue with a vote this evening anyways, because you're not hearing a variance. You can't grant a variance without hearing it then, correct?
You can't
Is what
grant-
you're saying? Okay.
Without-
Without the variance for the conditional use. So I can't continue this evening. You guys said I could table it, put in for a variance, and then come back next month is what I'm hearing, is the next step.
Next
And the
month.
worst it can do by continuing it, if you decide not to go forward, then it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's over. Now, the thing is, Joe probably knows the schedule a little bit better than I do now, but as to when it's going to be heard is really up to our timetables that Suzanne has to go through for, like Joe said, for new advertisements and stuff like that.
Right, our next public hearing would be November 24th, or we could try to do a special meeting, giving enough time for advertising and all that. Unless you wanted to come back, we could try to do it, but we'd have to check. If we could do it on November 10th or the 17th would be a special meeting. Our
Okay.
next public hearing would be the 24th, November 24th.
Okay. So if I put in for the variance, would you then schedule the meeting or would we have to schedule a special meeting tonight?
No, we don't, we wouldn't.
Okay. So
That's.
I'm going to ask for a continuance to put in for a variance to set up the next meeting then. Is that?
You're just asking for a continuance
Yes.
with us,
Yep.
which we would grant. Then it's up to you to decide to go do the application for a variance if you wish.
I would like to buy the property, so I will put in for the variance. Will you allow a continuance of this?
We'll make a motion to do a continuance and to hear it, let's say at the public hearing, next scheduled date, which would be November 24th.
Yep.
So we can do that.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
then I think I am done here tonight. Thank you.
Do you want to make a motion?
I move that we continue this hearing until further notice.
Until November, well, let's do it to a specific date, which would be November 24th.
24th,
Unless it would be prior to that, unless it would be withdrawn from the applicant, by
Okay.
the applicant.
fine.
Or second.
Second, Joe. All right, so we will adjourn at this.
Gonna need to vote.
Chairman Calabro,
Yes, sir.
Thanksgiving's that week, I believe.
Yes, it is. We always have a meeting right before
Well, that's why I
Thanksgiving.
wanted to bring it to your attention.
I thought the schedule said we weren't going to do it on Wednesday night. It's going to be Tuesday. Or did I get my dates wrong?
Well, we can do the 23rd. if we-
Yeah, why don't we do it? Because I'm not going to be here on Wednesday. I'm never here on Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Is everybody okay
That's
with
fine.
the 23rd?
Yeah.
All right, so let's make a motion to continue it on November 23rd, which is a Tuesday evening at 7 PM. Okay? Do I have a second on that?
Second?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So motion passed 5-0. We will continue this hearing on November 23rd at 7 PM, and that is a Tuesday.
Okay. I do have a question. Is there anything that you guys are looking for on the variance, since I will have to do this later?
Well, you'll have to check with Suzanne. She'll give you the application and the paperwork for that.
Okay,
And
An accurate
I would
square
suggest-
footage.
Get your accurate square footage.
Yeah. and I
from the
would
outside
suggest-
walls? Yes.
Right, and talk to Tom and to Suzanne, everything that you would need. And then at that point, you may decide that you may definitely want to move forward with it or maybe not,
Okay,
so,
all right, well, thank you.
okay? Thank you very much. All right, so do I have anything else, anyone? on this?
Nothing here.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn
So moved,
at 7:34 PM?
so moved.
Second,
Second.
that would be Carrie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:31 PM.